All right, so after having a catastrophic ski accident, which I shattered my shoulder in many pieces, had reconstruction, and then a couple other surgeries that went with it. After a grueling rehab, I was able to overcome something that I never thought I'd be able to do, which is really just getting back on the ski slopes, which is something I contemplated over the course of 2 years while healing and doing better and rehabbing my shoulder. And it was something I was pretty afraid of. And actually, this is a real experience that I would love to expound on just slightly. As I'm on the ski lift, and I've already like rented the equipment and gotten my lift ticket, and I've put back on my gear, and I'm on skis, and I'm on the lift, and I have this holy crap moment as I'm going up the ski lift that I'm actually doing this, and I'm terrified. And as I put my feet down, I had somebody who given me advice earlier in the day, and they said, just rely on, be careful, rely on your instincts, but don't get overconfident. So when you get out there and you overcome those first set of turns, which are impossibly hard to do, don't think you go back to being the person that you were rather, but become this new person. And so I think that was like a metaphor to like a lot of things how I think about in terms of overcoming major obstacles in your life and in business and things in general. But you don't have to be the person you were before. You have to become this whole new version of yourself, and you use that to your advantage to become just a better version all the way around. So, like one of the things that I thought about in terms of new hobbies that I can get into is golf. Right. So I haven't played golf in on any kind of regular basis, not more than like once or twice a year for 20 plus years, and a little bit less than that. But the reason being is that I was doing, all these other endurance sports. I was, running for marathons and doing
Hmm.
triathlons and long bike rides. And now I can't actually reach the handlebars on a road bike. So I can't get into aero bars, which is like half the fun of getting into a road bike, and then actually pulling myself out of aero bars into regular handlebars I can't do. So I actually am looking at golf, and I played a little bit of golf, and I realized that with the reconstruction I have on my shoulder, I can't overswing anymore. So I'm already a better golfer. So like this is like that great metaphor. It's a long one, but it actually, I'm actually a better version of my previous self because of this injury.
In that specific thing, right? Which is,
Yeah.
I think about when we are talking with, I would say, young startups and entrepreneurs, we have that, oh, it's all about the grit and you need to have this and you need to know how to fall and stand up again. But your story here is a little bit different. It's not just about the grit and, falling and coming back up. It's the way that you come back up and realizing I'm a different person now. And I can take this, well, handicap, golf, um, towards golf.
Right. Well, I think, like the old adage, those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. And so, I've
Hmm.
been through a number of startups, some successful and some unsuccessful. And these adages that come through with these young startups, if you have to fail, and you have to fail fast, and you have to figure out, you have to learn, you have to figure these things out, and that's how the sausage gets made, and all these other idioms that go with it. And the reality is that when you go through these things, no, you just have to be smarter. You have to learn from your mistakes and become a better version of yourself. So having done this a few times, I'm not going to make the same mistakes again just so that we could fail fast and figure out how to learn from there. We're going to do things smarter, differently, swing differently, ski differently, and change the way you think about the world and how you do things.
So, at what age do we stop failing fast and just trying not to fail, or
It's a real
trying to run our businesses and startups smarter?
I think it comes down to priorities in life and where you are. And this is not a universal rule, but if
Hmm.
there's a big enough fire underneath you, if you have a wife, if you have responsibilities, if you have real estate, you have things that people that depend on you, children, whatever it is. If you have if you're in a position where you cannot fail and the only thing you can do is succeed, you take out the mentality that failure is an option. And, from the perspective where I sit, failure just simply isn't an option. You work smarter at everything that you do instead of working harder. Doesn't mean you don't work hard. It just means that the mentality of you're gonna make an omelet by breaking some eggs is not necessarily the right move all the time. Sometimes you have to take a
Hmm.
step back, think about the battle plan, and not be so headstrong in terms of how you go about doing those things.
I think that we see it more and more, especially now in insurance. So originally, even when we are dealing with InsurTech, you need the experts, you need time in the industry, you need insurance experts or more mature entrepreneurs. And as time progresses, we see more and more that we need more insurance experts, not just a veteran entrepreneur. We have, super excited engineers like, oh my God, I'm going to jump in and I'm going to connect this AI, buzzword, cloud, 3D printing, all that stuff. And of course, NFTs. But especially after the past 2 years that we saw a little bit of a bump in the road, I think that people realize that it's more time for the mature entrepreneurs or not entrepreneurs, just people who are coming from the insurance industry with a lot of experience and kind of stepping out to something that they call entrepreneurship. And that, I don't know where I was going with this, seriously, but
No,
it
but
sounds at the
it's
beginning like a good path to take.
so it sparks a really, really good conversation that I like to have a lot. So within what we do and the businesses that we're in, you're 100% correct. Entrepreneurs go out there and they want to disrupt the world. They constantly use or disrupt an industry, right? They go into a space that they don't necessarily know all that much about. Like you're talking about people who are tech people who are coming into the insurance space and have created this insurance technology world, right? And it's an outcropping of fintech, and there's a lot of excitement about it, and it's doing all these new wonderful things inside of insurance that companies were never capable of. A lot of these things really didn't matter and didn't disrupt the business at all and didn't change the way things were being done. And so things have sort of, I would say, I guess, come in a little bit, and people who really care about insurance are really leading the conversation. But the point that I'm making a very long way to make is disruption is not what this industry needs. Enablement is what this industry needs. You don't change insurance. You can change some of the ways insurance companies deal with each other, but especially in commercial insurance, there's a relationship that exists between the business owner and their agency, the wholesale and the wholesaler, program manager, carrier. There's an ecosystem here for a reason. There are people with tremendous amount of subject matter expertise that they speak a language that simply is way, way beyond what the individual consumer can go ahead and digest on their own. And they need subject matter experts who are able to guide them and move them through the space. What those people needed was technology that enabled them to do their jobs faster, better, and more efficient, whether it's distribution, whether it's underwriting, whether it's claims, whether it's service. All of those components can use an upgrade. It just needed software and technology that's going to upgrade the way they do business, not replace them.
Okay, let's stop for a second and I'll make a proper introduction. Hi, Phil, how are you doing? Thank you very much for joining in InsurTech Talk. We met about, I have no idea how many years ago, but you were still with Amtrust Ventures.
Yeah.
So,
So
wh-
yeah, we met about 5 or 6 years ago. By the way, Gilad, great to be here. Thanks for inviting me on. We've known each other about 6 years, I think, six or
yeah,
seven years.
maybe.
I was with Amtrust Financial. I was consulting for their Am Venture business unit, having spent, I would say, 20 plus years in digital direct marketing, a lot of lead generation, customer acquisition, and they needed an expertise of someone who knew how to sell direct to their customers, sort of like a B2B to C. And I knew nothing about commercial insurance, but it was for me, it turned out to be a very happy marriage. About a 90-day consult turned into a 2-year consult. Following that, I consulted for a couple of other InsurTech companies, and then ultimately founded a company called iBynd, or Integrated Bind. And we've had a couple of pieces to our story, as have you, in your InsurTech journey. And
Hmm.
we've enjoyed where we started, and certainly enjoying where we are today.
So what is iBynd? What do you guys do?
So iBynd is a commercial insurance technology built around distribution of the commercial insurance product directly through wholesale entities, program managers, and networks. And we've built an ecosystem that allows touch points from the actual insured, the downstream agents, up through those wholesale entities, and then all the way to the carrier as well. And we're not an AMS, we're not a policy admin system. We have elements that touch all of that business, but we work in concert with all of those software platforms to create a hub where agents are communicating with carriers, getting real-time results, being able to bind policies. And ultimately, we'd like to be in a situation where we are the continuous hub all the way up until a claim is needed, whether it's endorsements, midterm amendments, renewals. We're looking to position ourselves as the kind of company where an agent can come and do all of the things they need to do for the markets we support.
So, there's, like you said earlier, it's an ecosystem. There are already all kinds of solutions out there. Why do they need your solution?
So we provide direct connectivity to the carriers that we work in on a rate quote bind basis, but then we go a little bit further. So there's a number of platforms out there that do a broad-based amount of quoting for a lot of different
Mhm.
markets, for a number of different carriers, and that's a skill set, and that's something that a lot of companies need. It's not who we are. We're at this point, our business, we're uh, much more deep and much less shallow than a quoting platform. We go a lot further than they do. Now, on the other hand, they have far more markets than we do. We focus on a select amount of carriers that we support, and we're better at building the functionalities for those carriers than anyone else, I would
Mhm.
venture, out there. And what we bring to the table is a symbiosis to the workflow of somebody who really needs everything that they possibly can get from that carrier in one place, and then have multiple markets go with that.
So basically, you're starting with, listen, there are so many different carriers, so many different solutions, but for condition number one, they need to have the ability to bind online. That's condition number one.
Absolutely.
Then from there, it's working with, you said, the wholesalers, the agencies, etc. So within the different AMSs, which you're not, what's the challenge for them to close that gap, right? Because they already have kind of interaction with the carriers.
By and large, they have a limited amount of connectivity, right? So the AMSs themselves are focused on the agent interaction. They're focused on what they can do for their customers, and the agents are their customers. We look at ourselves
Mm-hmm.
as partners with the carriers. We're an extension of what they offer in a hub that offers so much more of the functionality that the agents need. So we are that tether, and every organization works very differently. Some organizations take this component of an AMS and they take that component of their policy admin. They might have their own software for one element of their business, and they might prefer to work with a select amount of carriers in a particular way. The way iBynd is built is a very modular system. At the top level, we rate, quote, and bind, and we have an element to that is the base layer. Everything else that we bring to the table is completely modular. We don't say, this is our platform, take it or leave it. You've got to use what we have. and you have to do everything where inside of iBynd, otherwise it's not going to work. Just the opposite. The way we behave is this is our base layer platform and everything else is layered upon it. And it's an a la carte scenario. You can choose to pick what fits your workflow. We fit inside of what you guys like to do rather than you have to work with every piece that we have. Now, that's not saying that we can't support within the markets that we work in everything that they need, but we're not forcing it and we're not making it happen. Rather, we are working inside of what their workflow is, the way they like to work, and we're additive.
Cool. Now, there was a point that you touched a little bit. Sorry, maybe I missed that. Are you also selling your own insurance or as an agency or pure technology at this point?
So early on in our ethos, we were acting as a licensed agent selling policies. We built as our initial thrust into the space. We were built as an embedded insurance platform for commercial insurance. So we were the agent of record on anything that we were doing under that sense. We've completely pivoted away from that. Now at this point, although we still are a licensed entity and we do have licensed agents on our team, we act as a software provider inside of the InsurTech space for the companies that we support, and we do not act as agent of record.
Over the time, I met many on the MGAs that started as, we are the MGA, we are the InsurTech of so-and-so, and one day we're going to be a full-time carrier, but in the meanwhile, we have this awesome technology that we developed for better underwriting, better this, better that. And then usually they will reach out and say, hey, do you think that we can sell our software? So I see that you have done a certain pivot, a very similar, although for them as an MGA, it looked a little bit bad. For you, it sounds that it actually was a success story and you kept going through the SaaS route. At this point, good decision, bad decision, lessons learned.
Without a doubt, a great decision. There are definitely lessons learned, but we found that our tech and what we built was a really good fit for this space. And what we needed to do was grow what we had already built to be more accommodating to the companies we were looking to support. As a platform that was built for a really great UI to bring in a customer and to have them buy insurance, we realized that we built the right workflow. We built the right platform. We just built it for the wrong audience. Mm-hmm. So instead of building it for the actual insured, we actually took that and put it in front of agents. And the agents who use our platform love our platform from an ease of use perspective, from a machine learning perspective. It anticipates what they need, what they're looking for. It learns information. It pre-answers questions. A lot of the times we're using a number of different components to continuously create a smarter journey. And we're doing it in a way where agents like to work. It like leads me to sort of the differentiator that I talk about a lot with a number of different scenarios. When people always ask, I get this question a lot, are you a rater? And candidly and technically, we're not a rater. We're built around a single carrier journey. So the agent will check on appetite. Once they've determined what appetite is, they're going to go ahead and select the carrier that they want to work with. They go to the end of that journey, whether they quote, whether they refer, whether they decline. We give them the option to go to the next carrier in turn, and they can add on all the common data from that. What this basically has sort of lended us to be is you were either a single carrier journey or an a la carte comparator. We're not going to be a classic comparative rater, because we don't want to be in a position where we're effectively forcing the agents to answer all these other underwriting questions that they don't want to answer. Our entire ethos is built around the user experience scenario. We're so focused on making sure that that agent experience is as pleasant, as easy, and quite frankly, it allows them to be as lazy as possible to get to where they want to go. And really do it fast and effective.
Important. within the very long answer that you gave me now, basically, there were a couple of things. That journey sounds very, very familiar from a different career that I had in the past. And the other stuff are very, it's a question of what's the biggest problem that agents have today. And I'm kind of also repeating what you said, and I repeated it many times in the past. It's not about disrupting the industry. It's about empowering the agent. It's about enablement. So going kind of half a step back, actually, what's the biggest problem that agents today have? And how those problems or challenges changed over the past few years?
I think agents today are struggling with a lot of the things that, from a gross economic standpoint, that everyone else is. Now, in my opinion, agents are the lifeblood of the entire industry. All the business
Mm-hmm.
generates out of the agent population, whether it's captive or it's IA, and all of that. They're the ones touching the customers, and they really are who's driving the business. And you've got to be able to cater to what makes them write more business. And at this point, there's been a lot of technology over the course of the last the last 5 years, 10 years in aggregate, that have changed the way they have to work or want to work. And I think there still are many gaps in what connects what they really need and want to be the most efficient that they can be. And I think there's a bunch of companies out there trying to solve what that is. And the thing is that there's no universal answer, right? There's no one right way to do things. And some agents will like what you're doing, and other agents won't. The reality is that there's so much business out there to capture. It's just a function of working the most smart and effective way that you can to grow your business. And that's what we look at iBynd in terms of how we build new features, new products. Everything is built around how we can make the agents that like our platform be more efficient and are able to write more business so that they can continue to go on to the next customer and the next customer and grow what they do in size and the amount of customers that they support.
So what was your fall that you jumped back up as a new man and said, selling insurance doesn't work for me. Let me use my technology, which is a supreme technology to my ability to sell insurance, and I'm going to provide that to my customers or work with my current relationship, sell it to them, and now also distribute it to other players in the ecosystem.
So I'll attribute it to a little bit of vision, not necessarily on my part, but or our part, but being right place, right time. We had the
Now, listen, you
opportunity.
can give credit to other people, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not only.
It's not only me, right? We were just in a position where we had a piece of tech and an integration that we had built that a wholesaler wanted access to, easy enough access to, and they asked us to build the connectivity to them. To be perfectly honest with you, I was pretty arrogant about it, and I said we already built that integration on our agent flow, and this would be like a cup of coffee to transfer over to what we needed to do for them. It turned out I was monumentally wrong. And you sort of learning from your mistakes, we had to redesign the entire integration, build that up, and build an additional piece of software to support just that one piece of business. But that was a gateway, and almost it was an opening to a space that we didn't know our product was meant for. So I don't think this was a matter of vision and an understanding that when we went out and built our platform initially, that this was a market we were going to support, but rather just a happy accident, I guess, or the vision on behalf of that wholesaler that understood that what we had built would work really well for agents, even if we didn't see it that way, or if we didn't even recognize. I don't want to say see it that way, but we didn't recognize that. They saw it, but we had the talent on our team, certainly wasn't me, to be able to retrofit what we had built and put it out there for that wholesaler. And it candidly caught a little bit of fire. And we were able to
Are
grow
you
that.
familiar with the Are you familiar with the Slack story?
I'm not.
Slack. So Slack, well, they're a little bit in the billions now, but
Right.
more or less the same story, right? It's a, not a hobby, but it was a side project. Basically, Slack started as a gaming company, and and they basically needed some sort of a way for a group chat so they can have different channels and log a few things, and that's how it started. And then there was a certain point that the company, as a gaming company, failed, and that side project, that internal group messaging, started to pick up more life and more life, and people use it outside, and they decided to open it to the public at the beginning of free, and as time progressed, now it's I think it's in the billions,
It's in the billions. We use
but
it.
everyone is using it, and you need to pay a lot to make sure that you have the access to and no limitation and history, and you can all the enterprise solution, and that's part of it. Sometimes those uh, side projects or detours by, oh yeah, you may be, maybe you just build me that feature that can be the next company. And this is where, we need to put like a big caveat, because most investors, especially middle, early stage, will tell you, no, you need to stick to the path. You need to overcome. This is there. You need to be like that. And then, of course, there will be another school that will go, oh no, it's you need to pivot. You need to iterate. Yeah, yeah, great. Okay, pivoting and everything, but you need a really good excuse for it. And sometimes there are
Listen,
serendipities.
there's all these great business ideas, and some of them are built by great entrepreneurs, some are built by great managers. And the reality is that you've got to be able to feel what's best for you in the moment that you are. And the Slack example is an exceptional one. And I'll feel very lucky if we come within a small fraction of that. But the point being is that with what we've been able to do, we never set out to do this. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think that I don't think most people who start off in a technology company really end up doing what they set out to do. Now, some do, but even like the biggest companies out there in the world, they didn't set out to do what they're doing right now. I mean, look, Apple's still in the computer business, but by and large, the iPhone is really the product that really that's become universal for them. They weren't even in that business. Same thing, with Facebook. Facebook was meant to be, a university, a university tool
Facebook. Yeah.
towards boys and girls, meeting and dating.
Yeah. What
And
was it? Hot and not, kind of. That's how they started, right?
that's how they started. And ultimately, like it's actually the biggest advertising platform in the world outside of Google. So what it really, and that's what it really is. Yes, it's a social network, but it's really the largest advertising platform outside of Google. So when you think about where these things have pivoted, and these businesses have evolved and moved to, it's not all that big of a deviation. You just have to be flexible enough to know that when you've hit on something that really has adaptation, that you dive into that. And so that's where we are. We've got adaptive users. They want to see more from what we're doing. They're not looking at other projects or other platforms. They want to see iBynd do more for what they need for their business. And that's why we're so focused on creating this elemental hub where we can touch on all these other software products. Again, not looking to replace these businesses, because I don't have the expertise. And at iBynd today, we're not an AMS, and we don't have the expertise to be an AMS, and we don't want to compete in that space, particularly the AMSs who want to be, everything for that business CRM. And they want to control what that
Mm-hmm.
agency does from that perspective. We want to be additive. We want to be that connective tissue for that agency, partnering with that AMS into the carrier. And there are so many different components of where we're subject matter experts and they aren't. And so that we can combine together with companies like that and create a much better mousetrap on behalf of the agency that we're both supporting.
Now, so do you provide them your own dashboard platform, or do they still need to have like 10 different desktops open, different browsers for each carrier? How does it
So,
work?
we've built a multi-dimensional platform that allows for a number of different parent-child levels of
I'm
control.
sorry, what does it mean multi? I know three dimensions and time is the fourth one, and then there are a few others one that are theoretical.
So basically it's a thought process of a parent-child scenario. So
Okay.
it's multi-tiered. It's a better way of saying it. Probably not multi-dimensional, but more multi-tiered. So we've got the top level, which is wholesale MGA program manager, down a level to the agency, so the person who's managing the entire agency, and then below that there's the producer level, and below that is the customer level, so the actual insured. And so we've got a system that can be all encompassing or can be additive to a policy admin system or a company's own backend system. We've access to it can either be done through single sign-on, so just a click of a mouse and we've got credentialing. We've got credentialing into our system, or it can be a standalone system with its own security. We really, like I said, work right within with the way they want to, or even at a even, I would say, more granular level, we can just offer the rate quote bind scenario either in a pop-up or a modal inside of their own workflow, and then return results back into their own back-end system. So exporting it in real time. So we can work with whatever framework the companies we work with want to work in. We're very agnostic. We can support all of it.
Mm-hmm.
Some, like I said, all of it, some of it, or just that little sliver of connectivity directly to the carrier.
So convenience and close business faster.
Yeah, and I would say this: there's no gating item to working with us, since our entire economic picture is built around percentage written on our platform, a percentage of premium written on our platform. There is no setup fee. There's no fees for customization. There are no additional software fees. Everything we do is built around helping them grow their business. If they don't use our platform to grow their business, they don't pay for it. So there's no gating item. There's nothing that gets in the way of starting to work with us. We're very, very easy to build. I would say any kind of customized scenario that fits within our ethos to make sure that we're working with them the way they like to work. And we've built a number of different features, along the way that work for almost everybody that we work with today. But we continue to iterate off of that, and we're giving them what they need within how they work, and we don't put any hurdles in front of them to get there.
So for your acquisition, what would that be? Guidewire, bigger policy administrations, other bigger AMSs? What will
Well,
be? Who
you're
will want that vertical integration?
you're assuming somebody wants, you're assuming that we want to be bought. But if they're, in terms of a potential acquirer, because everybody has to think this way, I think the options are really, really wide open. We work with numerous different companies that would fit into what we do. I think an acquirer of us would either be a platform that was looking to grow their function and their ability from what they do and extend it into what we do and create economies of scale, or there's other
Mm-hmm.
businesses that are much more personal lines focused and want a footprint in commercial. I think we fit very well there. So I think there's a number of different ways that iBynd can go with a potential acquirer in the future. Right now, we've got our heads down. We're building a business. We're building. I think something really exceptional, something that can really make a difference to the agents that we work with and allow them to really grow their businesses. And we've tied ourselves to their success. So for us, we've got a long way to go until we get to where we want to be, on that acquisition scale. But assuming we get there, I think, whoever buys us, it should be someone who uses us as a tripling, quadrupling, just an exponential factor in terms of their own business.
Yes and no, but we can talk about it offline. Because at that point, first of all, grow the business. Acquisitions come from various reasons besides, what you mentioned, which is more kind of operation and strategy. Sometimes the strategy is to make sure that no one else can buy you or have that kind of capability, especially when you already have a footprint and a kind of a stronghold with a certain distribution channel. So someone may want to prevent it from their competition because there will be a cost for them to develop it if you have that.
It's true.
And then, of course, there are a couple of other things. Well, knowing you, it will not be for acqui-hire, so that's for sure. So you can relax about that. But otherwise, sometimes it's just a classic PE that see a nice cash flow and would like to tap into that. But let's put that aside. And I know
Without
that
a
we are
doubt.
already. Listen, a while back, I don't know, many years ago, when I started the Bound, one of the first investors that I met after explaining the concept of what I was doing, which basically was it started as the first embedded insurance platform, and quickly you understood that it's basically an affiliation platform to manage it, but with all the API at the time, go and digitalize the agents. Then COVID and kaput. And that investor told me, it's like, hey, but if you're doing that, you're leveling the field. They are going to lose all these elements within being there in place. And I was like, yeah, that's part of it, part of the vision. But together, it will take 10, 20 years to level a field. What is for you, with what you are offering today, what is the reaction of the carriers? Because you're working with the carriers. It's not simple to integrate with them. And then there is a result, and they're going, how does it help me?
So, first of all, there's no doubt you were a visionary with Bound, and you had thought through the problem that existed. What was unfortunate for you and for Bound is that you were also way ahead of your time. And
Tell me about it.
I think today in 2024, we're still in the first inning. And so I don't even think you were even in spring training when you thought of and conceptualized what you were doing with Bound. So I think we're just at the inception of what this looks like. And on the carrier side, the thing is that even the carriers that do have very robust rate quote bind APIs and have a considerable amount of endpoints and touch a lot of the different things that are needed, there's still major gaps in what they offer beyond a low level quote. So small commercial business is really getting quoted very well right now insofar as these carriers. And the reason why a lot of the companies that we're sometimes lumped into who don't do what we do shy away from bind capability or go deeper down the rabbit hole with post bind scenarios, endorsements, amendments, all the other things that come into play, referrals, is because the carriers themselves, there is no universality in terms of function, being able to offer the functions that would be necessary and needed for companies like ours to be able to report back to the agents in totality. So often enough, they either have to take stuff offline, they've got to go directly into the carrier portal, they've got to go through another third party. It's a very truncated scenario as it exists today. And so for the future, and really for where this is going, for us, the focus is how do we reach all of these functions inside of iBynd, reach all these functions from the carrier and bring them into iBynd. And we're very, very focused on this. And we're now building outward-facing API endpoints for the carriers to tie into us. Now, this first comes after we've already built their API for their demand engine, so we can get their rating engine, we can get their quotes, we can get the bind capability, we can get the pay issue. All of those pieces come from them, and often, and most often, the documents as well. So we're also a document hub for for quotes, for binds, for certificate of insurance. And what we're tying back to is the ability to push endorsements and to push connectivity and conversation in real time from the producer to the underwriter, whether it's for extra information, whether it comes under a referral. And we're continuously looking to aid with technology to create this hub and this ecosystem that reaches up into the carrier. And that's a very different thing that anybody was able to contemplate even 4 or 5 years ago, because the carrier, we were just desperate to get carrier APIs that you could tie into, right? Those were super hard to
Yeah.
get. And you had to have a carrier that wanted it to support and give you the information that you need to build that API. And sometimes that took months, if not a year, to build.
Oh
Now
yeah.
it moved.
First of all, you need to have a carrier that has an API or is willing to build an API, and then forget it. That will be in 2 years from now. You need someone from a business unit to support you and connect with the innovation team, if they have an innovation team, to the right person in IT, or tell you, here it is. And now let's bring the distribution business unit, because we need a good excuse to give you. And if you're an agent, you need to be appointed, right? So, and there you go. Here is the API key. Good luck. And there is no support. And I still get emails from Markel or Hiscox that their API is up and down. God knows why I'm getting those. I think I removed the subscription a while ago.
Once you're on a list, you can't get off the list.
Yes. And the funny part, I don't have that email address box anymore. So that's even weirder. But yeah, no, that's a huge challenge to find. And most of the people don't understand, go like, oh, no, I'm just, hit someone on LinkedIn and I will have access to a insurance carrier API that may or may not have all the documents that you need, or all the business functionality that really needs to be behind it. But sorry, the mic is yours.
That's exactly true. Like, often enough, documentation is wrong. You need to have, or it's just misplaced, and you need to have someone on the other side to interact with. And 4 or 5 years ago, you really didn't have that. Today, you definitely do have a lot more of that, but there's still a limited amount of function, and it varies wildly from carrier to carrier. So that's something that we're looking to fill in the gaps on our own and make our product and our platform much more valuable to the carriers that we work with and we consider to be our partners in building this endeavor. And the reason being is that we're looking to create as much connectivity between them and the producers, so they can also do less work on each individual policy, so they can also write more business. And so at the end of the day, we look at, it comes back to that one word, enablement. Everywhere we go, we're looking to enable people. And we recognize that the industry is probably just getting ready for this type of enablement, but we're gonna work pretty hard to help it along wherever we can.
Yeah, it's been in development, or just at the beginning, for the past 7, 8 years now.
Yeah.
But it is. Yeah, no, maybe
but
not.
Real business is being written now, right? Now real business has started to be written. And look, it's unfortunate, that someone like you had, the ability to, have that layer of vision to see that far ahead over the horizon. It just, I heard this adage, and I use it all the time. I literally use it in every conversation. It's not mine, but I live by it. Everything insurance takes a really long time, and then you got to wait a little bit longer. And
that's actually good. Yeah, I usually, in all the conferences I attend 1 or 2 conferences a quarter or a month. Whatever we are saying today, all the meeting, nothing is going to happen tomorrow. Take a week, 2 weeks, a year. Everything, it's so relationship heavy, and things don't move as fast. So we know that we are seeding, and we need to keep on watering and nurturing those relationships until something will actually manifest and happen. And it's the nature of business, and especially in insurance, which, surprisingly, it's a very, very small world.
It is, especially if you stay in the lanes that you're in, for sure. I
Hmm.
find that guys like you and me and our backgrounds, we come from a world where things move very quickly in
Yeah.
technology, and software and engineering. Things can move very, very quickly, and insurance moves at a glacial pace, and it's speeding up. But like, it's the difference between the tortoise and the hare. And the in almost every one of those analogies, the tortoise wins. So obviously insurance is doing something right. They just have to combine some of those elements.
And okay, now it's my turn to give an example and a sentence that we are using usually in the martial arts, and it's all about timing. So you win a fight, you win. It's all about the timing. You can have only one tool in your toolbox, which will be some sort of I don't know, a kick or one type of that. But if you time it right, you can make it happen. Otherwise, it can be 500 different features with whatever that may be. But if it's not the right timing, you don't have the right position for that, it will never happen.
Without a doubt, right
Good.
place, right time.
Now, okay, I was about to say, and with this kind of positive and optimistic attitude, we're going to finish. But let me ask you the question that I'm asking everyone at the end. Can you give the audience a word of advice? I know you already shared so many advices during this light conversation. So I'll take you to the first topic, which was about hobbies and skiing and jumping up and down. And we didn't touch one of our joint favorite hobbies, which is bourbon and whiskey.
Hmm.
What is your favorite bottle of bourbon? And
Wow.
don't say Pappy Van Winkle,
I
because in my opinion, it's overrated and too expensive for what it's actually worth.
So, I mean, I never would. I thought Pappy Van Winkle 20-year, before it got all the marketing, when it cost $90, was overpriced. So I'm definitely not in that camp. I would tell you, sort of like my favorite bourbon is sort of built around what I'm drinking right now. So let's go with Rabbit Hole Derringer is my favorite bourbon right now. I know it's a little nerdy bourbon, but Rabbit Hole is a great newer distillery, and the Derringer product is awesome. It's finished in a sherry cask. I know a little bit too much about it. And then I'm going to throw in one bonus for you here, because I've
Please
gotten
do.
to love rye, because rye in general has become, in my opinion, almost a better product than bourbon overall. And so right now, what I'm drinking is the Kentucky Owl 11-year. It is just phenomenal. You're not going to beat that. So those are the two favorite things I have in my bar today.
I'm not familiar with the owl. If we are meeting in the Hartford InsurTech Symposium, bring a bottle. We'll try it there if you can.
I'll throw something in the car.
Throw something in the car. There is always a flask. I think it's a non-alcohol. No, it's a non-smoking casino, Mohegan Sun, but I'm not sure about the alcohol part.
I'm pretty
The
sure
story was
they're good on the alcohol.
no. I'll tell you what was the challenge there. We had a dinner in one of the Italian restaurants, and we had one or two bottles, and I was walking out with a nice bottle of Barolo because we did not finish it. It's a nice Barolo. I will not leave it behind.
Hmm.
And there was a point that someone was running after me, although the restaurant from in the casino gave it to me, and they said, "You cannot walk around with a bottle of alcohol. It's against the rules. They will take our license." And quickly they put it like in a bag and made sure that it's sealed and their license is safe. So hip flask. That may be
Okay.
the unless it's in the, we'll just go to the room and check that owl bourbon thingy.
I will come properly attired, prepared. Right, better word.
Sounds good. Phil, thank you very much for joining me today and for all the nonsense and very important topics that we talked about.
Absolutely. Gilad, thank you again for the opportunity to talk to you and the audience, and see you in a couple of weeks.
See you.